How do I send HTTP request to my API and get the data in Stencil web component? Welcome to Coding Locker, guys, and this is the part of a playlist in what we are practically learning or practicing the Stencil. So far we have seen a few of the things. So this was the PowerPoint I shared in my first video where I said I'll be focusing on these on practical with a practical example. And so far we have seen how do we actually create the components, how to use that component in different application. We have seen with the styling, prop, state, watch that has been covered. Two-way data binding we have just finished. Error handling we'll have to see, and HTTP request. This is what we will cover in this part, and lifecycle methods also we have seen. After that, we'll left with just few more things in Stencil. So let's start, and let's start with practical one. Now, since we are working on a Stencil front-end application, no need to write any API. So how do we actually get the API data? This is alpha event is something. So this would actually give you the free API sort of things. If you look at the documentation, you will see there are so many things you can ask for. The search query, the list query, right? So we will actually call this APIs, right? So at first you have to sign in, and once you sign in, you will be given a API key, the free API key, and thereafter, if you copy any of the link, and you would be able to get the data. For this, the API key demo would work, since it would give you the list one, but some sort of special functions, maybe if you want to search anything, then of course you need to sign up and get the key, and that's completely free. Okay, now let's begin with the Stencil, and let me open the code as well. Here we are. So we have seen different lifecycle methods, right? So on one of them, we will have to make the call. And we have learned that on component will load, this method is only called once. It is good place to load the data. I still have the commented code always, and I always keep this. The reason is that I am actually uploading everything to GitHub location, and I do not want to lose the data for you guys, so that's why I'm not removing any of the items. So you will always find at least in the commented state, and you can compare this with the video and uncomment accordingly. So let me remove this console.log. Now, how do I actually call the API? So I won't invest more time in writing the syntax. Syntax are keep changing. So here I already have that. This is the fetch thing, which is given by Stencil. Here you just need to pass the URL. So that's the URL I have just taken from that Alpha Advantage. Then we have this response, and then we are converting or actually getting the JSON out of that. Then again we have this parsed response at this time, and just ignore, right? This is something as per the API, as per the response, whatever you will get, you will just get the data and store in the API data, just to demonstrate, right? And at first it is just the loading. So once you have the API data, we are actually displaying this here in the H5 tag. So let me refresh this and see, do we have the data? We have to always now manually refresh. See, this is the data. Let me refresh this. Loading an intraday open high volume, and what we are actually fetching. Let me Control C, paste it here, and it says you have to get the metadata, and from the first information you have to do. So this is metadata, and this is the first information. If I want to get this output size, maybe I can do this by this output size, and let it refresh. Loading, and we have compact, right? The compact one. Now the requirement which I have already shown you, that if I click on the stencil, I should be able to see the stencil one. I can see on a click of React, I should see the stencil. Now if I click on this get React user, it should give me the React users, and if I click on the get stencil, it should give me the stencil one. So for that, let's create or update something in the code. At first, let me create two state properties, and now you must be familiar whenever I say state properties. So this is something which is going to be updated within the component. So my stencils and my React one. So I have to call two methods here, or actually create two methods, although you can always do the code optimization. That's not the scope. So I have simply created two methods, get stencil users. Again, it would query something, and it would return some data, and then again React one, and it will return something as well. So at first, after that, we'll call another method, fetch my data from API if it is a stencil, and stencil data, otherwise the React data. Now, how do I actually call this? We all know that how do we actually call. So go to the button where we have the button. We have this buttons. Yeah, here we are. Get stencils users. Sorry, get stencils users. We have stencil, and for the React, we have React. Let me copy this one so that I don't need to the formatting. That's what it will do. At first, when you will click on this button, it will call this fetch my data from API. So the content type, it will check if it is a stencil, it will call the stencil one. So it make a call here. It will again get the data, convert into the JSON, and then get some data, whatever you want according to the API. Just ignore this thing. And of course, you can also have one more thing here, dot catch. You will always have, right? Like this. The reason for this, whenever if you expect any of the error, maybe you can console.log ex. Just to safer side, you can enable the login as well for your APIs. Perfect. Just refresh this again, let it rebuild, and I know I have to refresh manually as well just to avoid any issue. Clear the log. Click on stencil. We have the stencil. Get click on React. Okay, this is something which is illogically has been placed, but doesn't matter for us. Click on this get stencil users. So it should make a call. It is not making a call. Click on the get React user. Again, it is not making a call. Actually, it is making a call. Let's see what went wrong. So we have not used these variables, the my stencils users anywhere and the my React users anywhere. So for that, let me go back to here live users. So maybe in the span I can show users this dot my stencils users, and similarly I can show here this dot my React. Perfect. Press Control S, and I think should be able to see the users as well. Stencil, get React user, it's loading data 582, React, just ignore the logic, 253. We have the data. So this is the way we have seen that how do we actually call this, and how we actually place the different API calls. And this is also let's suppose we make a small mistake which we understood or which we have already learned, that instead of component did load, instead of component will load, we call this at component did load. Although it will not make any difference in the output. So let it refresh. See, do we still get this compact one? Yes, we still get, but see, we have the warning. Oh, sorry, we have the warning as well. Sorry, the state prop API data change during component did load, that triggers the extra re-renders. Try to work on the component will load. So that is the differences between the lifecycle methods. This is how you call the APIs in the stencils, and that is all for this part of the video as well. Next, we are left with few more things. Child versus So now further I'll create the sibling at first, the component, child level component and the sibling one, and then we'll see how with the event and the list, with the help of event listener, we can do the communication between those, and at last we'll have to do the deployment to this application, to different applications, Angular and the React one. Thank you for being at Coding Locker, guys. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.